is intense. You're about to hear the recording of a man confessing to the killing of his own children.
And then what happened to him? How did he get deceased? What did you do?
I sent him to bed after I worked him real hard because he wouldn't answer me. I questioned the town about the 4 outlets that he blew. Something happened. It was out of the ordinary and he would tell me. I didn't see any burn marks on his body, so that's why I didn't rush him to the hospital.
And where did he go from? You're doing this where in the house?
He was in the living room, and then I finally got tired of it and sent him to bed. Okay, just to bed. You're not telling me the truth. I can't help you. Go to bed, man. You're wasting everybody's time.
And then you find out what?
I come back and find out that he's deceased. Then it's the fan.
What you're hearing is the confession of this man, Timothy Jones Jr., describing how he disciplined his 6-year-old son Natan, which led to his death. Jones has 5 children.
How did it fan Tim?
The voices start going off, and then here comes the parent, and I'm like, oh, what just happened? What just happened? This ain't gonna go. I can't call the. I got all these voices running through my head now.
And then what happens, Tim? So Natan was dead, and then what happened?
And I followed suit with the 4.
And how did you kill
that
him?
was with my hands.
With your hands? Can you describe what you mean by with your hands? Around her neck? Who was next?
I'm just gonna put the order so I don't have to go into too much detail. Time, Mira, Elias, Gabriel, Elaine.
Timothy Ray Jones Jr. is facing 5 counts of murder for the unimaginable crime of killing his 5 children. Mara, age 8, Elias, 7, Natan, 6, Gabriel, 2, and Elaine, just 1 year old, on the night of August 28, 2014.
Authorities say Jones killed his children at his Red Bank home, put their bodies in plastic trash bags, and drove for 9 days before leaving them in a rural area in Alabama.
He claims that voices told him to do it, and has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. During the trial, the prosecution calls Jones's ex-wife and mother of the 5 slain children, Amber Kaiser, to the stand, and asks her to read a letter that she wrote to her children about the couple's divorce. The prosecution may be using this to help drive home.
Because I knew my kids were hurting over us not being together anymore, and I felt as though it was my place to apologize for breaking their hearts, for their broken home. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mira, my sweet, sweet daughter. I know that your heart feels heavy and that you feel really sad sometimes. I want to reassure you, sweetheart, that you, along with your brothers and sister, mean everything to me. You kids are my world, and Mommy and Daddy were very blessed to have you. God. Oh, God. I'm sorry.
Kaiser's help from the witness stand, and the court takes a recess. Jones does not take the stand in his own defense. 2 weeks later, the verdict.
We, the jury, find as follows. As to indictment 188, Mira, guilty. As to indictment 189, Elias, guilty. As to indictment 190, Abigail, guilty. As to indictment 191, Gabriel, guilty. As to indictment 195, Natan, guilty.
Just over a week after that, the jury decides Jones's fate.
We, the jury, now recommend to the court that the defendant, Timothy R. Jones, Jr., be sentenced to death.
The defendant, Timothy R. Jones, shall suffer death by electrocution or by lethal injection in a manner consistent and is provided for by the law of South Carolina.
His attorneys file an appeal a week later. Jones currently sits on South Carolina's death row.
Mr. Fleck is arguing things that he doesn't know.
I object to that. I object right over it. Somebody coming in here and trying to disparage my knowledge
Jefferson County District Court in Louisville, Kentucky, and Judge Sandra McLaughlin is hearing arguments as to whether or not the defendant, Ricky McAllister, should be held in contempt of court for a failure to comply to a court-ordered drug treatment.
We don't have any evidence.
Okay, what's the Kane's position?
Judge, this defendant 8 times over has failed to comply. I don't know why he's failed to comply. He failed to comply because he doesn't want to do it. He's failed to comply because he doesn't want to pay for it. He's failed to comply because he's now
Okay.
I don't know. But that's why the legislature has shifted the burden to the defendant to show cause. Now, that's what he was supposed to do on August 29th, and he willfully failed to appear in court. Now, do I have to prove why he willfully failed to appear in court? No, of course not.
Objection.
Because he didn't.
We don't
and
know
that's
he
why
failed to
I'm
appear.
talking here.
I'm sorry, I have an
And that's
objection.
why the legislature
Objection.
has shifted the burden,
Objection.
and he can.
What is your objection, Mr. Fleck?
Mr.
Fleck is
like the law
arguing things that
says.
are not in evidence. Mr. Fleck is arguing things that he doesn't know. Mr. Fleck,
I'm arguing things I don't know. I've forgotten more than you will ever know, buddy boy.
Mr. Fleck.
I object to that. I take great umbrage of somebody coming in here and trying to disparage my knowledge and my reputation when he is still wet behind the ears.
Mr. Fleck.
I've been doing this a whole lot longer than he's been
Mr. Fleck, have a seat.
on this planet.
Okay, let's see. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to recess until 1 o'clock. We'll see you back at 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Judge, I'll be here. I can't be here at 1.
You need to be here. You're ordered here to be at 1 o'clock.
Well, I'm supposed to have lunch with my mom in 1 minute.
Are your
so
mom
you
worried
want me to call my mom and tell her I'm going to stand her up for lunch because of Mr. McAllister?
You tell her you have to work. You want to make it 12. You can make it 1:30. The court is going to work. I'm recessing until.
You're going to make me stand up my own mother, my 83-year-old mother, who's waiting at a restaurant for me to show up.
Why? Because I think it's important for Mr. McAllister to get this matter resolved.
Well, if he wanted to get it resolved, he had 9 opportunities to do so.
I understand that. We'll see you back at 1 o'clock.
Well, for the record, I think this is...
Mr. Fleck, we'll start when you are back here, so enjoy your lunch with your mother.
After lunch with Mom, they're back in court.
We're still on the record. There's been a motion for contempt. Mr. Fleck, did you want to make a statement?
Thank you, Judge. I'd like to apologize for my outburst at 12:15. I think I was being needled by counsel incessantly, and the very thought of me standing up my mother...
Let me stop you right there. If you're going to make an apology, you don't need to talk about anybody else's behavior but your own.
I would apologize for my behavior, my outburst. The thought of my mother being stood up for lunch, I had no way to get a hold of her. She does not have a cell phone. Was more than I could stand. And I reacted to that situation poorly. And I would ask the court's forgiveness, deeply apologetic for my outburst.
Because of his outburst, Bob Fleck is fired from the county attorney's office. This is 23-year-old Andy Gonzalez. He's in court today to receive his sentence for the shooting death of 23-year-old DeAndre Bullis. Bullis was shot in broad daylight on a Grand Rapids street. He died on the scene. Today, Gonzalez faces possible life in prison for the murder. As part of the sentencing process, loved ones of DeAndre Bullis deliver victim impact statements while looking directly at the defendant. DeAndre Bullis' mother, Sylvia Villarreal, is at the podium first.
My grandsons have to live the rest of their life without their dad. They didn't even have a dad growing up. So thank you. Thank you for what you did. Because you ruined my life, you ruined their lives, and you ruined your family lives. Because he didn't need no gun to kill nobody. He could have beat your ass up and down the street. You and the clowns that you hang out with. Now my baby is dead. So you're happy. Thank you. Because I'm happy too. Because yeah, his body is dead, but his spirit lives on. And I know he's standing right here laughing at you. That's why you killed him, right? Because he laughed at you? Because you're a bitch. You're a coward. You already know how life is in prison. And you think you're going to just be happy-go-lucky? Nah, you're going to suffer for the rest of your life. Put your mouth open being everybody's for the rest of your life. Why did you kill my baby? You ain't got a reason. You're going to die in prison. I know. Go. I know.
Sandra Bravo, the mother of DeAndre's 2 sons, is at the podium next, with one of her children standing by her side.
You took my kid's dad from him. Now they have to grow up for the rest of their life without their dad, and he was a good-ass dad. He spent every single second caring for them and loving them. And now they have to go on without him, and I have to go on without him and raise my 2 boys without their daddy. You don't even know what it's like to be a
Andy Gonzalez is sentenced to a minimum of 67.5 years in prison. In an interesting legal twist, if Kent County Circuit Judge George Quist sentenced Gonzalez to life in prison, he would have been eligible for parole after 15 years. Instead, Gonzalez will be about 90 years old by the time he gets his first shot at parole. We head now to a hearing in Louisville, Kentucky. The defendant, James Roeder, has been charged with burglary. His alleged partner in crime? His wife, Ashley. They're both charged with breaking into a warehouse and stealing 6 flat-screen TVs. At the time of the robbery, Ashley was pregnant. James, who's been locked up in county jail since his arrest, has had a no-contact order with his wife, meaning they're not been separated. Ashley gave birth to their son.
You sure you're comfortable with this? Is this what you want to do? All right, just stay right there for just a second.
The judge is addressing Ashley, who's in court with her baby for her own hearing. James Roeder, who has just left the courtroom after his hearing, is being brought back in.
I don't want you to say anything to me about your case at all. Don't say anything. Your lawyer's not present right now. But I understand that there is a chance that you're going to go back to Todd County and that your baby is a month old and you haven't met that baby yet. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Roeder, do you want to come up here? I know you have a no-contact order between you and Miss Roeder that I issued, and I'm not changing that.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm making a temporary exception right in front of me on the record so that you can meet this baby. This is your son. You see his little shirt?
Yeah. It could be a fair amount of time before Roeder sees his son again.
Give everybody some. All right.
Thank you. James Roeder is sentenced to 4 years for third-degree complicity burglary.
And Miss Roeder, you can stay up here because I'm going to call your case next.
Ashley Roeder's given probation and is currently taking care of the couple's 2 children.
Thank you for letting me be a part of that. If y'all aren't teared up, then you're just heartless.
Before we hit the courtroom for our next story, we're going to take you back to the beginning of the defendant's journey. We're in Springfield, Ohio, and the owner of John's Drive-Thru is closing up shop for the night. A man approaches from the back. The owner spots him on the security camera feed.
Yeah, this is John's Drive-Thru, West Main Street. A guy just tried to rob me and I shot him. He ran out the back door.
Okay, is he injured?
I think I hit him.
With help from the store's security camera footage and a tip from a local hospital who treated a man for multiple gunshot wounds, police identified the perp as Ricky Hand, a known career criminal.
I did try to rob John's Drive-Thru. I got shot 3 times. I did a crime, I ain't gonna lie. I just wanted to live.
So, John, what'd you do with the pistol that you had around there? Because you know it's my understanding we're going for it, though, right?
But I didn't even get that branch. He shot me regardless.
Well, I think he's well aware that you've been robbing places at gunpoint or so.
I've never robbed anybody. That's the first one I've ever done.
Now, hang on a second. No, you and I have been straight with each other every time we met each other, okay?
Yeah.
I know there's more to it than that.
I pulled it out.
Okay. Pulled the weapon out. But I don't think I got it all the way out. Well, he saw you. That's why he shot you.
Hand indicted on 30 charges connected to a string of business break-ins at gunpoint. He confesses to a series of armed robberies.
There have been probably a half a dozen more robberies. Now, you're looking at John's. You're looking at this break-in to this beauty salon.
So I did.
The beauty salon's a bonus because I didn't even know anything about that. You told me that.
I'm going to prison for a long time.
Well, you know that.
Now Hand sits in a Clark County courtroom in Ohio, where a judge has just handed down his sentence.
You just gave me 40 years. Sir? Yes. You just gave me 40 years. Guess what?
sentencing of Ricky Hand, who was shot during an attempted robbery. And later confesses to a string of armed robberies in Ohio.
I'm going to prison for a long time. Well, you know that.
Now Hand sits in a Clark County courtroom where a judge just handed down his sentence.
You just gave me 40 years. Sir? Yes. You just gave me 40 years. Well, guess what? Sir,
Hand was clearly expecting a lesser sentence. But if we look again,
you just gave me 40 years.
You'll see he came prepared for the worst.
You just gave me 40 years. Well, guess what?
Look closely. Hand reaches into his arm sling and pulls out some cloth that was hiding a small bottle filled with, ready for this? His own feces and urine.
You can't play Jesus and God. 40 is a death sentence, man.
Ricky Hand lands in even more trouble for the feces-flinging attack, in addition to his prejudice and retaliation. And here now, under much better circumstances, the prosecutor you saw there, Andrew Plysick. Thanks very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So he planned this out.
Yes. Yeah, Ricky had, you can't really see it too well in the video, but he had actually created some kind of rig made out of like shoelaces or bed sheets. It had like holsters, and he had, I think, 4 or 5 other bottles that he had filled that he had brought into the courtroom.
Beyond what he already threw.
Yeah, and obviously his intent was probably to try to use all of them. He only got one of them open, thankfully. That was bad enough.
How was he able to get this stuff into the courtroom?
So, there was an investigation afterwards. I don't know all the details of it. It's very common, unfortunately, that contraband is able to make its way into jails all over the country, including in Clark County.
Who was he targeting? Was he targeting his attorney? Was he targeting you?
Yeah, I know that he was not happy with me because of the offer that he received. Later on, in some other interview, he did say that he was trying to get the judge. Ultimately, he mostly got himself, his attorney, and unfortunately the deputies that had to arrest him in the courtroom there.
Who was the woman we saw videotaping it in the front row there?
She was one of the victims, would have been a clerk that worked at one of the liquor stores that he had robbed, and is clearly entertained by it. I think obviously to her, even though Ricky claimed that he used a fake gun, and we did recover one fake handgun, that clerk had no idea that that's not a real gun being pointed in their face when they're being robbed, which you can tell, from the guy that decided to shoot him, obviously feared for his life, and, he handled it appropriately.
Andrew Plysick, thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate it. That's it for this edition of Court Cam. Thanks for watching.